Parts Express, the #1 source for audio, video, and speaker building components.
So what we're doing is we're connecting the input terminal, positive and negative, to the input terminal on the rear of the cabinet. Your red's going to be your positive, your black is your negative. The T terminals correspond to the tweeter. You want to make sure, of course, that you're matching positive to positive, negative to negative. The W is going to be for the woofer. Again, positive to positive, negative to negative. I can't stress this enough. If you get the polarity wrong, the speaker will not sound good. If you have a lack of bass, your polarity is more often than not reversed. So what you would do is just basically go to one of the speakers, not both, and reverse the polarity. However, the problem that you run into is that you don't have any frame of reference because your crossover is already buried inside of the cabinet. So what you're going to want to do is just make sure that these are going to the correct speaker as you install the speaker. And again, make sure that they're going to the correct polarity as you install the speaker. Once you've got those connected, grab your BR1 cabinet and set it close by. What we're going to do next is feed the cable into the box. Make sure you're observing polarity and connect them to the speaker terminal that is pre-mounted onto the rear of the cabinet. Once you have those installed, what you'll want to do is turn the crossover so that the bottom is lined up with the bottom of the cabinet as such. What we're going to do from this point is make sure we can put this all the way at the back of the cabinet. We have adequate room, we have adequate clearance for the speaker cables. You're just basically test fitting to ensure that when you hot glue the crossover into the base of the cabinet, the cables will connect to the drivers to which they go to. So now that we have our hot glue gun heated up, what we're going to do is set the crossover in the base of the box with the bottom facing up. What this is going to allow us to do is apply a liberal amount of glue to the bottom. You want to have enough that it's going to hold the crossover in place. You put the glue on, and then immediately thereafter, flip the box right side up, press the crossover into place on the actual base or bottom of your box. So here we go. This is probably one of those times where you're going to want to have a lot of glue left on the stick because you got to move rather quickly. Again, apply it all over the base of that crossover, and as soon as it looks like you've got enough of it covered, pull the hot glue gun out, flip the box right side up, press the crossover into place and hold. Allow that to set for a couple minutes while it dries and pull off any of the strings that might have came off the hot glue gun. Okay, what we're going to want to do next is take out the two pieces of acoustic foam that have been included with the kit. This is going to serve to attenuate some of the back wave response coming off of the inside of the speaker. What we're going to do first is measure it out because we have to cut each one up into particular sections that go on the inside of the cabinet. Again, these sheets are about 18 inches wide, so we're going to have to find the middle mark. One of the cool things that I found is that this actual manual is about 9 inches wide. So you can use your manual to actually measure the midway point and just extend it all the way up. That's close enough. This isn't what we would call high precision work. Then what we're going to want to do is come up 5.5 inches, make a mark here, extend that line over. And do the same on the other side. And then come up 5.5 more inches. extend that line. And what we're going to do next is cut all of these lines with any type of razor blade should work. I put a cardboard, of course, underneath where I'm cutting because I do not want to pay for this table. What I do is I extend the actual cutting material out of this razor blade as far as it'll go. That'll ensure that I'm cutting all the way through. So now I have two halves. Remove this loose stuff here. So then you have all of your pieces and you're done. So with your foam cut, what I recommend that you do is use 3M's Super 74 foam adhesive. It'll hold it in place well enough, and it's really, really simple to use. The first one that I do is the bottom piece of foam, and how I do this is I take the 3M spray adhesive and I spray the bottom of the cabinet. And then what I do is I spray the bottom of the surface of the foam that's going to mount to the bottom of the cabinet and just press it into place. Now what you'll notice is that I've actually pulled the speaker cables up from the crossover, and this is just so I don't lose track of them inside of the cabinet or underneath the foam as I'm putting it into place. After installing the bottom piece of foam, I would highly recommend to doing both the left and right sides. Take your foam, put it inside the cabinet, leave enough space in between the foam and the side of the cabinet that you're attaching it to, pull the foam back, take your spray adhesive, hit the side of the cabinet that you're attaching it to, hit the foam, press into place. It's really that easy. A lot of people might ask what the purpose of the foam is. The foam is actually what's going to absorb a lot of the backwave energy coming off of the woofer. This is going to give you a cleaner mid-range, all the way up to probably about 2000 hertz where it starts to cross over to the tweeter. What I'm going to do next is actually install the piece of foam, or the pieces of foam, that attach to the back wall. The most important part about this is to make sure that this port tube here is not obstructed by the foam in any way. So what you want to do is put the top piece of foam on first, the top of the back, and then proceed with the bottom part. I've again pulled speaker cables out so that they are not going to be hidden or trapped in the process. Okay, so what we're going to do now is cover up this piece right here. Pull your speaker cables out and just put this in as good as possible and try to get it to hit the back wall. Okay, so another important thing is to make sure that you still have access to the labeling of the crossover, so that way you know where the polarity is on your speaker cable. Again, polarity is one of the most important things when putting together this speaker. And lastly, we're going to install the top section. What I do is I wrap it around the port tube, pull it back, create a gap so I can put some spray adhesive in there. After you get the top portion of your speaker foam installed, this is what it'll look like once completed. After the foam's installed, what you're going to want to do is remove the caulk that came from the kit, and only on the woofer, install a bead of the caulk all the way around. The tweeter comes with a gasket installed onto the rear of its frame already, so caulk's not needed on the tweeter. Make sure it's butting up against the edge of the frame and the edge of the actual mounting flange. Once you've gotten it all the way around, pinch it off and press it into place. What this is going to do is help to create a nice tight seal required for the port to do its thing on the side of the box. If you don't have a good enough seal on the back of the woofer, what's going to happen is that it's just not going to live up to its potential. You'd have potential air leaks that would change the tuning frequency of the box to a lot higher frequency, thereby negating a lot of the bass that would be otherwise present. Once you have the cock installed, again follow back the cables to the crossover to ensure that you are installing first and foremost the right cable, but secondly you want to make sure you have the polarity correct as well. On this woofer, the red dot indicates positive polarity. So I connect the wire that is connected to the crossover for the positive polarity side. Pull this off a little bit and then connect the negative to the woofer's negative. Again, the red dot is showing me positive polarity as well as an embossed positive symbol into the terminal. There are pre-drilled holes onto the cabinet, so you're going to want to make sure that you get those lined up. And once lined up, the driver will press into place. There are two different size screws that come with the kit. We have number 8 and number 6. The number 8 is for the woofer, the number 6 for the tweeter. As you can see, one is thicker than the other. The thicker one is the number 8. What I recommend when installing the screws is that you work each corner first. So you install the first one, allow it to take the woofer down into the speaker's recess, and then do the opposite corner. You don't want to drive this all the way down just yet. You're just going to want to take the frame into the actual recess of the cabinet. As soon as you see the frame starting to go into the recess, move to your next screw. What that's going to do is ensure proper alignment. So once you have your woofer installed, it's time to move on to the tweeter. Again, the tweeter has its own gasket pre-installed on the back. Drop it into place, install the number 6 Phillips head wood screws. Don't go all the way down just yet. You want to make sure that you have all screws installed before torquing them into place. Make sure that you're not torquing the screws down too hard onto the tweeter's faceplate, as it is made out of plastic and would be prone to cracking. Once you have the tweeter installed, the last thing to do is to install the grill. And you have one complete speaker. Once you've installed all of the speakers, it's now time to listen to them. Get a piece of music that you're familiar with and just listen for imaging, bass response. If the bass response is lacking, quickly disconnect one of the speakers from your stereo and swap the polarity. If you have more bass, then you've wired one of the speakers out of phase. You'll need to go back before moving forward. We sell these to a lot of people. The primary buyer is going to be somebody who's pretty new to DIY. However, we have very advanced speaker builders actually building the BR1 kits and coming away quite satisfied. There's something to be said for building your own speaker, because once you show this off to somebody and they comment on how great the sound is, you can say, yeah, and I built this.
Over 15,000 products, free same-day shipping on most orders, 45-day no-hassle returns, and free tech support. PartsExpress.com, the #1 source for audio, video, and speaker building components. Parts Express, the #1 source for audio, video, and speaker building components.
So what we're doing is we're connecting the input terminal, positive and negative, to the input terminal on the rear of the cabinet. Your red's going to be your positive, your black is your negative. The T terminals correspond to the tweeter. You want to make sure, of course, that you're matching positive to positive, negative to negative. The W is going to be for the woofer. Again, positive to positive, negative to negative. I can't stress this enough. If you get the polarity wrong, the speaker will not sound good. If you have a lack of bass, your polarity is more often than not reversed. So what you would do is just basically go to one of the speakers, not both, then reverse the polarity. However, the problem that you run into is that you don't have any frame of reference because your crossover is already buried inside of the cabinet. So what you're going to want to do is just make sure that these are going to the correct speaker as you install the speaker. And again, make sure that they're going to the correct polarity as you install the speaker. Once you've got those connected, grab your BR1 cabinet and set it close by. What we're going to do next